keep up with the festive ambience of this channel for the last few weeks, we are going to be looking at this festive edition of the Radio Times, which is a magazine which covers BBC and radio channels here in the UK. And this is dated, so this is for England, and it's dated from the 17th to the 30th of December 1983. Wow, a long time ago. And it's priced at 56 pence, which at the time I guess people would have been thinking, I'm not paying that. It was probably super expensive because everything about the BBC is quite expensive. The license fees are expensive. But this is a Christmas double edition, which completes a 7-day guide to BBC TV and radio. I probably remember this year, to be honest. But let's have a look through and see what was on TV in England in 1983. For any overseas viewers, we only had 4 channels in the United Kingdom back in 1983. And this was BBC 1, BBC 2, ITV, which was all regional sort of channels across the whole UK, and had adverts, commercials in them. And we had Channel 4, which again had commercial breaks throughout the whole schedule. But BBC 1 and BBC 2 didn't have any, and still don't have any commercial breaks, because they are funded by license fees. I guess I'll just move this along here. I mean, this smells really old as well. Look at that. Wow. So an advert there straight away advertising the new Volvo saloon. Look at that, baby. So it's asking you if you want some information about the Volvo 360 GLE saloon. And it's available from £6,699. Getting back to this, let's have a look to see. And here it gives us the contents on what is actually on TV. And we've got Christmas cards on page 4, a special delivery of the BBC's Merriest Gentleman. The Everly Brothers on page 9, pranks, films. Now this was the bit that I always really made a beeline for, all of the movies that were playing over Christmas. And here is a lot of the comedians of that era. So we've got Roy Hood, who I vaguely remember. Keith Harris, who was a guy who had animals. He was a ventriloquist. He was known for having the green bird called Orville. Val Doonican. Lenny Henry, who is still kind of around. Sid Little. Oh yeah, so there was a duo called Little and Large. Eddie Large and Sid Little and Jasper Carrot. Wow, these are people I've not heard of in the longest time. I don't even know if any of these, some of these are still with us. And this is a continuation of those comedians. So we've got David Jason, who is quite a serious actor now as well. Nicholas Lyndhurst. So these must have been in a sitcom we have here in UK called Only Fools and Horses. So they must have been kind of at their heyday of that show being on TV. Leonard Pierce, who played Grandad in that show. Frank Muir. Terry Wogan, who is long deceased now. Evans, who is a magician. I didn't think he was a comedian. Les Dawson, Kenny Everett, Jimmy Savile. Oh, we shouldn't mention his name. I'll not go any further with that one. And what's this? Arena Special, the Everly Brothers reunion concert on BBC Two. A packed Royal Albert Hall was treated with an evening of nostalgia when the Everly Brothers appeared on stage together for the first time in 10 years. And Arena's cameras recorded the event. Here Phil and Don Everly reminisce with Ray Connolly. And this supplement here, this area is all about the Everly Brothers, which were a duo that were famous in the 1950s, I believe, and inspired Simon and Garfunkel. It was all kind of very jaunty and rock and rolly, if I remember rightly, with the Everly Brothers. And here we're continuing on with the Everly Brothers section. Kathy's Clown. See, I know these songs actually. But the print is actually coming off on my fingers. So this is kind of given a little bit of a plug for a show called Pranks. Let's bring that further down. Gone is the telegram of congratulations. Instead you sent anything from tap dancing gorilla to a striptease and nun. What you send depends on what you spend. As the program discovers, Guy Bellamy answers his doorbell fiercely to find new small enterprises. I'm not quite sure what that is. It's not something I'm familiar with, so maybe Pranks didn't kind of hit it off, I'm not sure. Oh, look at this. These are advertisements for cruise ships to Sweden and Norway and Finland from £83 and Denmark and Germany from £55. And it leaves in my area DFDS Seaways in North Shields. I think they're long defunct now, but DFDS is still actually going quite strongly. And I've done a sort of a little mini cruise around these areas. Absolutely brilliant, I loved it. Couldn't get it that cheap these days though. And here's the bit that used to really get me excited. It's the Christmas movies. And here it tells you everything that was on. So back in the day we would really kind of focus on this because we were new with a VCR. We were collected movies and we used to record things, but we used to have a good look to see what was coming out, and we used to buy enough videotapes to cover what we wanted to record, but we used to keep them and watch them over and over again. My dad had quite a collection of films. You'd hear that wind outside. So the whole UK is being battered by storms at the moment, and it's absolutely wild out there. So on the Saturday, I'm not sure what the date was on Saturday, but The Immigrants is on. Can't Stop the Music, which was made in 1980. I love how it says colour in brackets, as if colour is kind of a big thing. Because I guess at the time there was a lot of black and white movies in circulation, and this just tells you if it's in colour or black and white. I haven't seen Can't Stop the Music, and it's got something to do with a Roaches musical marathon featuring the pop group Village People and their massive hit YMCA, packaged by Grease producer Alan Carr. Married, Something Big, and The Fog. Oh, The Fog's a great movie. That's John Carpenter's The Fog, and yet in 1979, get a lung full of fresh air before you watch this thriller. Murderous fog rolls in from the Pacific, sweeping over Janet Leigh and everybody. Halloween director John Carpenter sometimes lurks when he should dart, but the film never loses its dark, clammy atmosphere. The Dirty Dozen. So this is the Christmas Eve movies, and there's not many of them really, but when you think about it, we did have another 2 channels on top of this, but they covered in different magazines. You had to buy 2 different TV times and radio times to get the full coverage of what was on at Christmas. So we've got Scrooge, the 1951 Alistair Sim version, and I guess the big movie was Flash Gordon, which was on at 7:10 p.m. on BBC One. That's the version with the Queen soundtrack. Then Christmas Day, we've got Treasure Island. That's the Disney version with Robert Newton. He was a great Long John Silver, and Treasure Island is one of my favourites. Duck Soup. So really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 6 movies on Christmas Day. That's really poor, isn't it? And Boxing Day was The Bridge on the River Kwai, Rocky, The Ipcress File. Holiday Tuesday was The Wiz. That's the one with Michael Jackson and Diana Ross. Oh God. Wednesday was Dodge City presenting Lily Mars, The Great Escape. Even though there's not much choice nowadays, these were big events, these movies. These would have had people kind of glued to the sets with like millions of viewers. And some of these were probably being shown for the first time. We've got Coma, which is kind of a long forgotten medical drama. You can hear the seagulls. Holiday Highlights with Robert Ottaway. So these are kind of just little pics from radio and TV. Looks very dull and black and white, doesn't it? This is nothing popping out, but still a good read. So here's the TV listing starting now. So on Saturday the 17th of December, we had children's TV at 9 p.m. and these were great. We used to love to watch these, but I think I was more of an ITV sort of morning person. Saturday Superstore, which is where a lot of pop groups used to kind of appear as a guest. And in this edition, the Police with Sting joins him, and Slade, Tracy Ullman. My fridge has just kicked in there, so hopefully you can't hear that. So Tracy Ullman, this would have been before she went to the US and became a kind of a bigger star. We had a big, from dinner time, we always had Grandstand, which was all sports. And kind of regular TV kicked back in at tea time, but there was like rugby league, there was racing for mascot, all of that jazz, every Saturday. But on a Saturday tea time, the Little and Large Show, which was like a weekly comedy show with these 2 comedians, Eddie Large and Sid Little. All very twee when you watch it now, but I've not seen it for a long time, and they're very of the time, maybe, I'm not sure. And then on the other side we had BBC Two, and that's kind of listing what's happening and what's being shown on BBC Two at the time. So now we're to Saturday night, and the Saturday night film is Can't Stop the Music. An exuberant disco musical starring the outrageous village people and hot gossip in songs and dance including Liberation, Milkshake and the title song, and of course the spectacular Bushy Berkeley style YMCA. And it gives the cast there, and it tells you it's the first showing on British television. I've not seen that film. The two Ronnies were very much a BBC staple and appeared quite often, and they'd always have a special guest. In this one it's Patricia Ratridge, who played Hyacinth Bouquet in the sitcom Keeping Up Appearances. And we went to Bergerac, which I never really was into at the time. I was just a young kid, very young, and I wouldn't have been watching anything like this. And on BBC late night we've got the late night horror movie, which is The Devil Rides Out, with Christopher Lee and Charles Gray. An unusual film to have on a Christmas. And it was quite conservative back then. I wonder if people were kind of thinking, why are you showing this at Christmas? And this is radio. All the radio listings. And Sunday morning. Yeah, Sunday mornings were quite religious. So we always had Sunday worship and songs of praise going on. There's an Asian magazine celebrates Christmas with a seasonal song performed by the Bedford Asian Christian Choir. Matt's Help. So this is all really dull stuff, really. There used to be this called See Here for people with deaf or hearing, hard of hearing. And for that hour it would be things which had sign language in. It wasn't as inclusive back then as what it is now. And at 2 p.m. there's a Christmas matinee. It's The Man in the Santa Claus Suit with Fred Astaire and Gary Berghoff. The lives of three men who each rent a Santa Claus suit at Christmas are drastically altered by a mysterious figure who appears in many surprising roles. Astaire takes the title role and 7 others in this charming fantasy about the spirit of Christmas. I'm not too familiar with that one, to be honest. National Show Jumping. Oh, we've got a Mickey and Donald cartoon, because cartoons used to be a good little thing to stick on between programs, and they often used to play Tom and Jerry or a Disney cartoon, short cartoon, but this one is Mickey, Donald and Goofy tangle with a giant clock. At 5:55 there's an edition of Jane Eyre, which is the last of 11 episodes. And then as we get into early evening, we've got Mind How You Go, presented by Jimmy Savile. Wow. Well, anybody who's not familiar, this guy really had a big fall from grace. And he was once the darling of the BBC. Songs of Praise at 6:40, which was a religious. The cameras would rock up at a certain church around the country, and everybody would be out with their finest and sing along with all the hymns. Over on BBC Two, there's not a great deal of things happening there. It's quite dull. Beethoven, Ski Sunday, rugby. So if you're not into sports, there's nothing really on BBC for you. Or classical music, should I say. Early evening consisted of Heidi High, which was a really successful sitcom on BBC in the early 80s, maybe the 70s as well. But it was all set at a 1950s holiday camp. It was very twee, to be honest. I wasn't a big fan of it. I used to just switch it over. are big fans of it out there. By the Sword Divided. Sergeant Bilko, that used to be still very popular, and obviously that was black and white. And it tells you there that it was a repeat. On BBC Two, we've got That Show Pranks that was mentioned earlier in the magazine. And we've got Frankenstein, the True Story. It's a movie. And following the premature death of his brother, medical student Victor Frankenstein meets Henry Clerval, a man with disturbing theories about conquering death. So that is kind of who's in this. James Mason, David McCallum, Jane Seymour. Again, just more radio. So this is the 19th of December, and let's have a look. So we have Breakfast Time. This was the original. This was with Frank Bow and Fern Britton. Then we've got. That's really dull, actually. There's not a great deal kind of on at all. Pigeon Street at 1:45. I used to love that. That was like an animation about a community, but it was really great because it had African, Caribbean characters in it, and it was really good fun. The National Show Jumping, Mighty Mouse. Wow, I forgot all about Mighty Mouse. Do you remember Mighty Mouse? The BBC must have kind of plugged Mighty Mouse, but it was an animated show. I think it was American, but that used to be on quite a bit. The Magic Slipper. Jack and Henri was a kids show where a celebrity would read out a chapter from a kid's book. So in this one, it is Peter Pan by Jan Francis, and it was just kind of a head and shoulder shot of somebody telling the story. So it kind of made you think about the story rather than watching something happening. It was more listening to a story. Blue Peter was a really big thing. Is Blue Peter still going? I'm not even sure, to be honest. Today for the great day for a 14-year-old Simon Holton, the winner of Blue Peter's Telepost greetings card competition. His glorious view of balloons over the London skyline has been turned into a greetings card that will be seen in the public for the first time. On BBC Two you can watch Cary Grant bringing up baby, celebrating his 80th birthday coming up, and this is also with Katharine Hepburn. And it is an enchanting, crazy comedy and one of Howard Hawks' greatest triumphs, and features Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn in a perfectly matched relationship. David Huxley is a quiet professor dedicated to zoological research. His content to live with his life among the dry bones and exhibits prehistoric dinosaurs, but then he encounters society girl Susan Vance. That's in black and white. And we're heading into Monday evening. We've got Europe's Strongest Man on TV. Jeff Gibbs. I thought he might be appearing on that. He's just recently passed away, and he was definitely one of the mainstays of that whole competition. It used to come on every year. Point Blank is on with Lee Marvin, Hollywood superstars, and there's a lot of black and white films on BBC back in the day, but this is Schoolgirl Chums, a jolly holistic story of the 30s, starring Layla Ward, Martin Benson. Wow, all these names. It sounds a bit like a Centrinians guess a talent for murder is the number one thing with Angela Lansbury and Laurence Olivier. An eccentric thriller writer has a habit of enacting her murders, but who is the final victim in this comedy thriller with two of the greatest names in show business, which is Laurence Olivier and Angela Lansbury. This was probably just before she started doing Murder, She Wrote. Again, more radio. And again, the regular look at BBC on a weekday is Breakfast Time with Frank Boe and Selena Scott. That was the normal, and I remember that being on TV as well. See, Tom and Jerry made regular kind of little appearances, and they got their own bill, and it was normally a filler between episodes, but they don't play Tom and Jerry anymore now. The BBC have changed drastically. I mean, this is all quite twee, but it was quite really synonymous with Tom and Jerry. Play School, which was a very, very popular kids focused program, educational. I used to love that when I was a kid. But you know, we would circle things that we wanted to record. Harty was Russell Harty, so he was like the BBC one. He used to do interviews with celebrities and used to get some big names kind of on his show. But he was a big staple of the 1980s. Oh, Dallas is on at 8:10 with Patrick Duffy, Linda Gray, Larry Hagman. On BBC Two, the big movie is Rollerball with James Caan. The violence of the rollerball game is designed to release antisocial feelings amongst the spectators, but gradually they clamour for more and more excitement. The games become tougher until finally the opposing team decide in a New York game with no holds barred. I do remember Rollerball being around. I just don't think I've seen it. Have you seen it? Again, we're always separated by these radio listings. Oh wow, the new adventures of Flash Gordon. Flash and his companions Dale Arden and Zarkov continue their desperate mission to save Earth from the evil Space Lord Ming the Merciless. I'm sure that was black and white. And that used to come on every morning along with Battle of the Planets. Battle of the Planets was great. It was kind of I think it was Japanese. And it was so atmospheric. I just remember the theme tune, and it's great memories. Just looking at what else is on. The Adventures of Bullwinkle and Winkle and Rocky and Jack and Ori. And again we've got Harty on. Who's he got on this show? Tonight the Greenwood Theatre closes its doors, and Russell and the team travel to Woking in Surrey for a star-filled Christmas party. Alive from the former railway orphanage, now home for the children and old people. So don't miss the Harty party. Oh, there's a Walton special on at 5:40, a wedding on the Waltons Mountain. The Waltons was such a popular show here. I'm sure it was everywhere, to be honest. I didn't watch it, but I remember my grandparents used to absolutely love to watch it. And the big movie is The Fog. And that's on at 9:55, and that's the John Carpenter film with Jamie Lee Curtis, Janet Leigh, Adrian Barbeau, Al Holbrook, and John Houseman. That's been on TV many a time since, but yeah, it's a great film, The Fog. Not the best John Carpenter film by far, but it is a great film. More radio. Just a lack of colour too, isn't it? realising that, nothing stands out because everything is black and white. Again, we've got the new Adventures of Flash Gordon, Battle of the Planets. We've got a Blue Peter special assignment. We've got Email of the Detectives, Postman Pat. Oh, that was really popular with kids and still kind of is, to be honest. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I used to watch all of these, so every tea time BBC used to be full of kids programs, and I used to flick between ITV and BBC about what I wanted to watch. I used to love Heidi. I used to love The Adventures of Huck Finn and Friends, I think it was called. I loved that show so much. I used to just I can't remember if it was on BBC or ITV. Tomorrow's World. Oh wow. Yeah, that used to be a sort of a focus on science and technology of tomorrow. And the one here is wow, that wind outside. Including a beetle that could save Britain's Christmas trees and a new way of stopping unwanted intruders coming down the chimney. And of course, Top of the Pops was a staple, an absolute staple of weekly TV viewing, and the Christmas episode used to be the whole year's number ones performing in one show. It was so magical. I loved Top of the Pops. My dad started recording them, he'd record them every week, and he would pause after the song and wait for the next one that he liked to come on. And he used to fill up 3-hour tapes with different performances from BBC's Top of the Pops. Great days, and I've still got all the videotapes upstairs. Do love to watch them now and again. They are great. Only Fools and Horses was on at 8:30. And the last of 7 episodes. And this one is Who is a Pretty Boy? The Trotters embark on a decorating venture only to find they got the bird. And there's film 83. So this used to come on every week with Barry Norman. And what is he reviewing? It's Jaws 3D. A great white shark terrorizes a group of young people in Florida's SeaWorld and includes interviews with Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. Kroll with Ken Marshall plays a young prince whose quest to save his abducted bride, Lislet Anthony, in P.T.'s epic fantasy adventure. I mean, they're both vintage movies now, and to think they were just coming out at the time of this publication. And again, the same kind of setup every day. We've got Flash Gordon again. Battle of the Planets. These were all continuations every morning. It would kind of leave you on a cliffhanger and you would see what happened the next morning. There's Christmas cartoons, The Boy and the Cat and the 12 Days of Christmas. Oh, I used to love this Take Heart. It was a children's weekly show with a guy called Tony Hart, and it was all featured around art and crafts. I used to love it, and you could send him your picture for the art gallery, or the heart gallery, and I sent in a picture that I drew, but I never made it onto the gallery. Crackerjack, I mean, these are all really cool vintage children's shows that really invoke a lot of great memories for me. I just don't feel there's anything like that anymore now. Now there's Princess Diana. The Princess and the People, so we had a special on at 9:15, and that was all around Princess Diana. So for Diana, Princess of Wales, 1983 has been a year of travel, a year that's seen her develop from a rather shy, somewhat reluctant tourist into a leading world figure, striding confidently into the crowds to shake hands and chat on tours of Australia, New Zealand and Canada. Oh, she was beautiful, Princess Diana. And the big movie at 10:50 was The Dirty Dozen. And that Everly Brothers in Concert reunion is taking place on this at 9:15. Radio. And now we're on to Christmas Eve. Oh, this part's actually come loose. So what's on? So we've got no BBC breakfast show on today for some reason, but we've got Inch High Private Eye. I remember that too. The Happy World of Hanna-Barbera, which is made some of the best cartoons from Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear, Fred Flintstone. So this must be a retrospective with Gene Kelly. There's a film on at 10:50, and it is a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court with Bing Crosby and Rhonda Fleming. Then Bonanza, remember that? A lot of younger people won't, but it was kind of a western with Lorne Greene and Michael Landon. It was kind of all American, probably made in the 60s, 70s, I'm not sure. Around the World with Dot. Dot is sad at Christmas because baby Joey the kangaroo has gone missing, but when Danny, a young swagman, hears her story, he becomes Santa Claus and takes her around the world to search for her lost friend. The Magic of Lassie. So we're really into Christmas specials now. Some mothers do have them, which was not my favourite show at all. I just really don't like that at all for some reason. I never did, and I still don't. And there's a pop quiz on at 5:55 with Mike Reed, with Roger Taylor from Queen, Lamar, Mitchell, Dave Edmonds, Mark Wilson, and Lee John. Over on BBC Two, we've got the Christmas Eve matinee, which is Scrooge with Alistair Sim, which is a fantastic movie. I absolutely love it. Some people argue it's the greatest Scrooge version. I personally prefer the Albert Finney musical version, but I'm not averse to any of them, to be honest, but this is equally good. Flash Gordon's on at 7:10, and that is the big Christmas movie, and I think I actually remember this playing because I used to get so excited about Christmas I couldn't even concentrate on anything which was on TV. And I remember that this was on and I was wanting to go to bed, because if you go to bed it feels like you're accelerating time, and it's going to be Christmas morning and you can get up and open your presents, because let's face it, at Christmas all you really care about is the presents. But even though I would normally love Flash Gordon, I was just waiting so impatiently for Christmas Day. So I've got vague memories of this actually being on TV. A spectacularly new version of the adventures of the famous comic strip hero. I mean, it's very camp, Flash Gordon, when you watch it now. But it is great fun, and it's got lots of energy and lots of very colourful, and but it's not exactly a classic either. It's probably a guilty pleasure. And we also had Midnight Mass on Christmas Eve. Always had Midnight Mass taking place. That was always on BBC One. And then we're on Christmas Day, so we've got this big centre page here of this illustration of a typical family Christmas, with all the toys being played with and people sleeping, people climbing up the tree, because it is a magical time for kids, it's Christmas. So what was on? The Christmas Raccoons was on. Lots of Christmas churchy things which the BBC wouldn't do now. I think there's more focus on multiculturalism now in the UK, but that was the big thing. Top of the Pops 1983 Part 1. The Radio 1 DJs present the singers and bands which have made this year's top-selling records, such as Michael Jackson, Shakin' Stevens, Men at Work, Bonnie Tyler, Duran Duran, Bugs Fizz, Lionel Richie, and David Bowie, and the Queen's speech at 3 p.m. That also was something that everybody watched. The world kind of stopped in England for the Queen's speech, and we've got the King's speech now. Then blankety blank, and then we've got Treasure Island at 3:50, which is the Disney version with Robert Newton and Bobby Driscoll. And it was the first time it was shown on TV, really. I'm surprised by that. A lot of Disney movies were never really shown on TV that often, to be honest. They were probably really expensive to buy. Meet Me in St. Louis with Judy Garland. That's over on BBC Two. Then Christmas Day evening, we've got more songs of praise, which was Churchy and carols. The Two Ronnies, which is again a Christmas staple. All Creatures Great and Small, Only Fools and Horses. And the big feature movie for Christmas Day evening is Better Late Than Never with David Niven, Art Carney and Maggie Smith. And it was David Niven's last film. I'm not familiar with it, to be honest. But Maggie Smith has just passed away herself. God bless her. Duck Soup, which was the Marx Brothers, was on at 11 p.m. and took you into 12:10. Over on Boxing Day, we are big on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas Day in the UK. It's still a holiday for us, but I know it's a regular day for a lot of other people around the world. And we've got flash curtains back on, so things are kind of running back to normal, but not quite. But we've got lots of great Christmas specials on The Good Life, which was great, a great sitcom which I still enjoy. And it's their Christmas special, and it's the one where Tom, Barbara, Margot and Jerry plan their respective Christmases, but neither goes according to plan, which sounds like sitcom territory, doesn't it? Bridge on the River Kwai was the big movie on Boxing Day afternoon. Boxing Day was always a time just to play with your presents and just have a little bit more of a chilled out day. You know, you're not trying to cram too much in. There's no big meal, no big dinner to prepare. And it was always really just a day just to be left to play with things. And I always used to really love it. Turkey sandwiches as well, so all the leftovers normally would be used on Boxing Day. The Keith Harris Christmas Party, now that is Keith Harris with Orville, the little green duck. We've got the Paul Daniels Magic Christmas Show, we've got the Kenny Everett Show. Kenny Everett sadly passed away very young. I'm not sure what year he passed away, but he was still very prominent on TV at that point. BBC Two has got The Tale of Beatrix Potter. It's got Mame, a Mom, with Lucille Ball. I haven't seen that, but I know it is a musical. Oh, the big movie is Rocky. So this is a first showing on British television of the original Rocky film. And BBC used to sometimes get like an artist's impression of the movie and do like a little black and white section on a visual. But Rocky, great film. It is still a great film. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it's definitely something I appreciate more as an adult than when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was more about the sequels, which just got sillier and sillier, obviously, and more box office popcorny kind of film. But the original is a very serious drama, very slow moving, but just great performances. Big fan. And on BBC Two, again, it's movie time, and it's the Ipcris File with Nigel Green. What is the Ipcris File? What's it about? Michael Caine plays lead Dol Dayton's celebrated hero Harry Palmer in the first of 3 spy thrillers, represents espionage as a stark, shabby and treacherous world. When ex-army officer Palmer is transferred to a civilian outfit for an investigation of a brain drain among scientists, he finds himself in the centre of a bizarre intrigue which nobody is to be trusted. And we've got Holiday Tuesday, the day after Boxing Day. Why don't you? Oh, I remember, why don't you? Why don't you just switch off your television set and do something less boring instead? So this was your ideas, games and activities presented by the children of the Why Don't You gang. I remember that really well. Wow. El Cid is the big movie. There's a Paddington special on there, Eye for the Engine. See, I remember all these kids' TV shows with great affection. I used to love Disney Time. That used to go on every Christmas and every Easter. And it was clips because there was no Disney movies shown on TV. Not the big classics, the animated classics, because they just always got released on the big screen on the cinema every 7 years. So the only chance you ever got to see them was to watch these clips on TV, that is. The Jungle Book, Mickey's Christmas Carol, Lady and the Tramp, Never Cry Wolf, Sleeping Beauty, and Sword in the Stone. They were just all magical to me. I love Disney, and I still do love vintage Disney. And yeah, I used to absolutely love that. Hooper is the big movie on BBC One at 6:25, and that is with Burt Reynolds, who's no longer with us, but a great talent and a great box office appeal back in the 1970s. This was kind of the Smokey and the Bandit era, I think. And that takes us to 8 p.m. And at 8 o'clock we've got Dallas, which again was very, very popular here. Last of the Summer Wine, which was a very twee Sunday evening comedy show about a lot of people in their golden years who've been friends for many, many years. And yeah, I like the idea of Last of the Summer Wine, but I didn't really get it as a kid. But it's very twee, but it was a classic of its time. And that's the Last of the Summer Wine lot there. Best friends since childhood and all pensioners now. Oh God is the movie on Holiday Tuesday on BBC Two. And more radio. Oh, something's been spilled here. It looks like some kind of orange juice or something like that. Wacky Races. Wow, at 9:50 the Wacky Races is playing. I love that. Paddington at 10:55. Let's have a look what else. Dodge City, or more Tom and Jerry as well at 12:45. Loved a bit of Tom and Jerry. And that was Smarty Cat and Pop on a Picnic. Yeah, Dodge City with Errol Flynn was at 1:50. And then we've got Jack and Nori, Gulliver's Travels, Eye for the Engine. So lots of great kid stuff just peppered throughout the day. And then we've got The Great Escape, and that is on at 6 p.m. and that's with Steve McQueen and James Garner and Richard Attenborough. That's a great, great classic movie, isn't it? Yeah, the best of three of a kind. It was Danny Henry, Tracy Ullman and David Copperfield. This was before Tracy went to America and kind of reinvented herself. But she was a really very British comedian back in the day. And on Thursday, so we're on the run up to New Year's Eve now. Again, Postman Pat. I'm just trying to think if there's anything I would love to watch back in the day. Barney Bear. I seem to remember Barney Bear. This one is featuring the Thompson Twins, The Cure, the Bell Stars, Assembly, Culture Club, Susie and the Banshees, the Style Council, and Spandau Ballet. We definitely would have been watching that, and I probably still got them on record, on tape somewhere. And the big movie on this Thursday night is Coma. I kind of remember Coma. I haven't seen, I know it's some kind of medical thriller, but this was the first shown on TV, and again I really like the artist impression of Coma. That's the kind of job I would like to do, just an artist impression of movies and playing with posters, etc. Yeah, Coma is on TV. And Friday, we're back to the usual breakfast time with Frank Bohr and Fern Britton. And again, a lot of Why Don't Yous and Flash Gordon, Wacky Races, Jack and Ori Pennington, the Little Mrs. and Mr. Men. Bonanza seems to play every day as well, and Tom and Jerry. Oh, Take That is back on. Again, I love Take That. It was so cool. I loved it to bits. Checkers plays pop. Checkers is back with the Reds and the Yellows and a special seasonal treat of pop, action and crazy games. The Warlords of Atlantis movie is on Friday evening at 6:20 with Doug McClure. I remember that being on TV as well. Not particularly this showing, but I remember it being prominent on TV. Yeah, the Marx Brothers Animal Crackers. So they seem to show these really old Marx Brothers films at late night on BBC Two around this period. Carrot's Lip. Is that Jasper Carrot? Yeah, so as we're heading into New Year now, we're kind of starting to get some of the New Year specials starting to creep in. So this is all local radio now. So that is the last. Wow, so that leaves you on a bit of a knife edge. So this is the 30th of December, so the night before New Year's Eve. So that kind of abruptly ends. You'd have to buy the next edition to see what's played on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day and beyond that. It must be because of the days that this falls on. But again, we would have found the second magazine to go with this, the one that covers the the ITV regional areas and Channel 4. So that is the Christmas 1983 Radio Times. I do hope you've enjoyed looking through with me, and I hope it's invoked a lot of childhood memories like it did with me, especially with the kids' shows and the cartoons, etc. But I do hope you are feeling nice and relaxed and head into a nice restful sleep. And I will see you again very soon. You take care and hope your Christmas is